Welcome everyone, this is AndresRestart. This is going to be a very quickly edited, simple style video. As you see, I'm just kind of jumping on with this format here. I wasn't even going to make a video today, but we kind of got some pretty big deal news, so I figured I should jump on and talk about what's going on here. Because, yeah, it's kind of a big deal, so just listen to me here for a moment. Let me kind of break it down how it sort of went. So, MobaPad, an accessory maker that works with Nintendo, put out a post on Facebook. As you can see here, there's a post. Doesn't say that much right now, just talking about, Switch 2 stuff. They're just asking questions, right? There's nothing super clear here, but apparently this post was edited. Nintendo Prime covered this on his channel. Right here. They already talked about in their video. I'll link it in the description below. There's going to be something there where they actually have the screenshot of what it initially said. There's a whole bunch of information there. And he went in and emailed a whole bunch of people and verified it. But this is where it gets even more interesting. Pyoro, the leaker of all leakers, the person who gets everything right when it comes to Nintendo Directs, has spoken out about the Nintendo Switch 2. Finally, I've been waiting for this day when Pyoro would talk about Nintendo Switch 2. And this does make me wonder, is something about to happen? We've been talking about how Nintendo may finally make an official acknowledgement of the existence of Switch 2 by May 7th. Their fiscal earnings released to begin the next fiscal year. It's already started, but that's when they kind of start talking about and outlining things. So this is very interesting. But anyways, this is what they said. To those sending me this via DM, it appears that this info has been divulged to some manufacturers and Nintendo influencers in China for a while. Such info has been mentioned in some private discussions, while my main source can't verify it. So his main source can't verify it yet, so that we should take that into account here. This isn't Pyoro going full on in saying, yep, this is 100% all true. That he's simply suggesting that from what he's hearing, it seems like it likely is. And he also says here, such info has been mentioned in some private discussions before this report. So he's saying that this report here is lining up with what he has heard. So Pyoro is somewhat backing this, not fully backing this, so still, grain of salt, right? Even if he was fully backing it, even Pyoro can be wrong sometimes, it is possible. This just makes it more impactful. There's more weight behind it now with Pyoro, the leaker of all leakers, saying some stuff. So what's being said here? This is my Nintendo news. I have their article here. I originally read this, but it's a translation, so I'll just go and take you to the actual source. Well, by actual source, the translation, because the actual post has been taken down, but this post here covers it. So they talk about a lot of things. They talk about the Joy-Cons. You know what? It's probably simpler just to do it here. I've read it, so I'll paraphrase. The article will be linked in the description below, so you can check it for yourself. But here they make mention, Bluetooth chip of Switch 2 still supports existing Joy-Cons and Pro controllers, and it will still feature HD vibration, the ALPS dual-axis linear motor. So that's all that fluff. The HD rumble. The HD rumble we saw on the Joy-Cons, still going to be there. The Joy-Cons Pro controllers will still be supported through Bluetooth. Now, yesterday we put out a video talking about how there was another report from Vandal, completely different source here, talking about the magnetic rails and how they will no longer be attaching normal Joy-Cons, but newer Joy-Cons. And this is also supporting that story here. But it goes beyond that. The Switch 2 will be backwards compatible. In other words, when you have a Nintendo Switch 2 and you have a Nintendo Switch 1 game, you can take that Switch 1 cartridge, put it into your Switch 2, and play it. This may also include digital stuff, but that's another conversation for another time. But here they talk about how the Switch 1 cartridges will work on Switch 2, but Switch 2 cartridges will not work on Switch 1. So they're probably going to put a notch or something like that, just so it can't fit in there. Nintendo's done this many times before, like with Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, they've done this. This is nothing really all that new. But there's still more to be said here. So the new Joy-Cons that are going to be fitting through the magnetic rails, or whatever it is, it's going to be done magnetically. They are a little different. They're a little bit larger, so that's pretty cool. The SL and SR buttons are going to be metallic now, not the whole plasticky look. So that's interesting. They might be going for more of a deluxe, more regal approach with the overall look of this Switch 2, which I think would be pretty nice and be a good way to help it stand out from the Switch 1. Things are going to get more interesting here because there's also a new button behind the Joy-Con. Here on this report here, they more clearly detail that it's behind the LZLR button, so the shoulder button. So there's going to be, I guess, a third set of shoulder buttons. Okay, I'm feeling this. I like where we're going with this. There's going to be more. Okay, so there's gonna be more options, but it goes beyond that because there's also going to be an additional button below the home button as well. So there's gonna be another operational button. We have the record button. We have the home button. There's gonna be something else, maybe an options button. So we're gonna have that, but we're gonna actually have 2 more shoulder buttons of some kind for actual typical gameplay. So that's definitely an evolution there, and I'm definitely feeling that. Going beyond that, though, there is talk of the dock. It's still going to have the USB-C port. USB-C is the best, so that's not bad news. But it's also going to support 4K image output. Now, the thing about this, I think this is obvious that it's going to support 4K image output. Not saying every game is going to run natively in 4K. We know about the DLSS, the AI enhancing, upscaling, that's going to allow games to look a lot better in terms of resolution and other things. 4K should not be a surprise. Now, again, we're not saying native 4K, but the system should be able to at least support up to 4K image output. That does, like I said, so many games may not actually run that high of a resolution, but some theoretically can. That's not too crazy, but something else I will note, when we go back a few years ago to the Switch Pro reports, a lot of reports back then also mentioned supporting 4K image output, which led people to believe that the console was going to have improved visual prowess, and not really unless you're just talking about the improvement of just the screen itself in handheld mode because it was an OLED. So I'm putting that out there. I don't think that that's what this means, but it's just simply something that's happened in the past. Now, moving on, they also talk about how the kickstand is going to have a damping bracket on the back for improved angle adjustment. I love that. You know, great. The better kickstand, better tabletop play. Let's go for it. Then this part excites me. This is something that we've been thinking for a while. That it's going to have an 8-inch screen. This has been rumored, but also a 1080p resolution. And I really believe the 1080p resolution. And here, this is just kind of backing that thinking. Because if we're going to get an 8-inch screen, and it's not going to be an OLED. I hit my protein drink. I just came back from the gym. You can tell that I'm just kind of like just jumping on, just doing this real quick here. But yeah, so 1080p. I've been thinking this for a while because bigger screen, 8 inches, it makes sense to go for a higher resolution, especially if they're not going for the OLED and they're going for some kind of more advanced LCD. They need to do something to kind of make up for the fact that they can't do OLED this time around, at least not at first with the initial launch of the console. 1080p will do that, and that'll be a great way to showcase better looking, better running games in handheld mode. So I think that is really darn cool. And that's the basic summary of all this information here. It's a lot. It's pretty awesome, and I am pretty excited about this. Now, there is a couple things I do want to sort of speak on a little bit more. There is, well, one, just the idea of backwards compatibility. That's a big deal. I don't want to, you know, just be like, oh, it's just a little thing. It's a big deal. We've been wanting this for a while. We've been hoping for it. This strongly supports the idea more so that it will be backwards compatible. Something else that's mentioned here, though, is that the Joy-Cons, the original Joy-Cons, will be supported through Bluetooth. And this is important because from the report from yesterday, that was not clear. This is clarifying that both the Pro controllers and the old Joy-Cons will be compatible through Bluetooth. But what makes this more interesting, though, is that there was this kind of concern or thought I had of if these controllers are compatible, does that mean there aren't any sort of controller advancements? Well, with this report, they're talking about how there is controller advancements in terms of actual interface with these additional shoulder buttons and the other operational button. So what to me this suggests is that yes, you can pair up your Joy-Cons or your Pro Controller, but they will be simpler controllers that you can use likely for multiplayer and things of that nature. You may be able to play some single-player games if it supports it, but there will be Switch games, or Switch 2 games I should say, that are going to be made with this newer controller in mind, with more buttons in mind, and I think that's an important distinction to make here. I mean, even on the Switch, there are some simpler controllers that don't have all the features of the standard Switch controllers that you can pair on for different kinds of games. It's really no different, but I'm glad we now have the clarification, and we're now getting info that the controller's got more going on than just the basic Switch controller that we've been enjoying throughout these last 7 years or so. So this is big stuff, and if Pyoro's starting to talk about things that have been in the talks lately, there's maybe some reason to think that news could be coming up soon, as I mentioned earlier. So, this is exciting, but what do you think? What do you make of all this information? Is it a big deal? Are you excited? Do you think we're going to get some official Switch 2 news soon? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.